translation and purports by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Continuing to read in the fourth canto. I'm sorry, second canto, fourth chapter. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I'm going to just quickly read the Sanskrit and the translation for the first verse of this chapter, and then continue reading the purport, which we didn't finish yesterday. So the verse was Sutu Vacha Vayasake Viti Vachas Tattva Nishchayam Atmanaha Upadharya Matin Krishne Otareyak Satin Gidhat. Suta Goswami said, Maharaj Parikshit, the son of Uttara, after hearing the speeches of Shukadeva Goswami, which were all about the truth of the self, applied his concentration faithfully upon Lord Krishna. So, in the purport, Prabhupada memorably said the whole Vedic adventure is to draw one's attention entirely under the lotus feet of Krishna without any diversion, as instructed in the Bhagavad Gita. Fortunately, Maharaj Parikshit had already been attracted to the Lord from the very beginning of his body in the womb of his mother. In the womb of his mother, he was struck by the Brahmastra, atomic bomb released by Ashwatthama. So I wanted to explain, actually, I never got around to it, I think, the meaning of Parikshit's name, how the name of Parikshit actually comes from this incident where he was in the womb of his mother and Ashwatthama wanted to destroy the last survivor of male heir to the Pandava throne. And so Iksh, in Sanskrit, the verb Iksh means to look at something, and pari means, of course, around. You know that pari, like perimeter. And so to look all around means to examine this. And so, for example, when Shastra or Acharyas talk about how the guru and disciple must examine each other, study each other, that word is used, pariksha. And so because Parikshit saw Krishna in the womb, and he had this powerful impression. So it said the rest of his life he was looking everywhere for Krishna. He was looking for that amazing person he had seen in the womb of his mother, and therefore he's called Parikshit. An interesting detail. So, but by the grace of the Lord, he was saved from being burnt by the fiery weapon, and since then the king continuously concentrated his mind upon Lord Krishna, which made him perfectly chaste in devotional service. So chastity is not just for women, chastity is for men. It's not that, the wife is chaste and the man is in the bar picking up ladies. So this chastity means it's the ability to form special relationships with other people. And in this case, with God. It's the ability to, it's just like, for example, people who achieve excellence in any field have the ability to commit themselves to that field. In a sense, we have to be vocationally chaste. We can, of course, do many things, and variety is the mother of enjoyment, as Prabhupada used to quote that proverb. But still, to really become powerful, successful in a particular field, one has to be even vocationally chaste. And you have to really know what you want to accomplish and then dedicate yourself to that. And so this chastity, in terms of friendships, in terms of intimate relationships, in terms of a career, in terms of especially our relationship with God and the representatives of God, this is such an important point. So Prabhupada talks about Parikshit here, about being chaste. It's not just about being a good wife, although that's part of it. So by natural sequence, he was a chaste devotee of the Lord. So Prabhupada repeats the word. By natural sequence, he was a chaste devotee of the Lord. And when he further heard from Srila Sukadeva Goswami that one should worship the Lord only and no one else, even though full of all desires or desireless, his natural affection for Krishna was strengthened. We have already discussed these topics. So Prabhupada here is paraphrasing, even though full of desires or desireless, a verse which already came, I think, in the perhaps the first chapter of this canto, where it's a very powerful verse. Akama sarvakama va. Whether you are akama, you have no selfish desires, which is very exalted, or sarvakama va, you have every material desire. Moksha kama, or if you desire liberation. In every case, if you are udarati, if you are literally sort of broad-minded, or if you have broad intelligence, if you really get the big picture, udarati means you really understand the whole situation, then tivra means intense or concentrated, focus. So tivrena bhakti yogena, with intense, with focused devotional service, yajeta, one should worship purusham param, the Supreme Person. And so what I always found remarkable about this verse that Prabhupada just quotes is the same instruction is being given to the person who has all desires and no desires. In other words, the most fallen person and the most advanced person are given the same instruction. So the fact that we, let's say, still have material desires is not an excuse or a reason not to intensely worship Krishna. In fact, the more fallen one is, the more intense one's prayers need to be. It's like a drowning person's crying for help intensely, not because the drowning person's a good swimmer, but because the drowning person is not a good swimmer. So therefore, to say, well, I can't intensely cry out to Krishna or serve Krishna because I'm fallen is just, it's just not really understanding Bhakti Yoga. Last paragraph. To become a pure devotee of Lord Krishna. So our ears should perk up at this, so to speak. To become a pure devotee of Lord Krishna, two things are very much essential. Namely, having a chance to be born in the family of a devotee. Well, we kind of missed the boat on that one. And so did Prahlad Maharaj, actually. And having the blessings of a bona fide spiritual master. That we can do. And of course, Prabhupada is our founder Acharya. Everyone has all the benefits and blessings of the most Krishna conscious person. By the grace of Lord Krishna, Parikshit Maharaj had both opportunities. He was born in a family of such devotees as the Pandavas. And just to continue the dynasty of the Pandavas and show them special favor, the Lord specifically saved Maharaj Parikshit, who later on, by the Lord's arrangement, was cursed by the boy of a Brahmin, and Parikshit was able to get the association of such a spiritual master as Sukadeva Goswami. So all of Parikshit's good fortune, in a sense, culminated in meeting Shuka. And so even though our background is clearly not on the level of Parikshit, but in a sense, we've had the same good fortune as Parikshit, in the sense that we have come into contact with Prabhupada. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that a fortunate person, by the mercy of the spiritual master and Lord Krishna, achieves the path of devotional service. This was perfectly applicable in the case of Maharaj Parikshit. By way of being born in a family of devotees, he automatically came in touch with Krishna, and after being so contacted, he constantly remembered him. Consequently, Lord Krishna gave the king a further chance for development and devotional service by introducing him to Sukadeva Goswami, a stalwart devotee of the Lord with perfect knowledge and self-realization. And by hearing from a bona fide spiritual master, he was perfectly able to concentrate his chaste mind further upon Lord Krishna as a matter of course. So probably the third time uses this word chaste. Could you read the definition of chaste?
Sure. The word that comes to my mind is faithful.
Hmm.
It comes up with Chase credit card. Let's try Chase definition. Um, or I don't think it's that one.
Yeah, it's obviously
most of them are about
faithful
sex.
marriage. Yeah.
Without unnecessary ornamentation, simple or restrained.
No. Anyway, that's not a big dictionary. So, but we understand what Prabhupada meant here. So, any questions on the points we've already read? Questions, comments? No? Huh?
It was clear.
So maybe we'll read the next verse, and we won't read the whole purport, but we'll start the next verse. Atma Jaya Sutagara Pashu Dravina Bandushu Raje Cha Avikale Nityam Virudhan Mamatam Jaho. So in a sense, the verb is the last word in this verse. The verb is Jaho, which means he gave up. And then all these other words, uh, it's interesting. So I'll just tell you the structure of the sentence that what he gave up, the last two words are the complete, in a sense, are the sentence. He gave up mamatam, which literally means myness. In other words, that's how you say in Sanskrit, sense of proprietorship or possessiveness. Mama, of course, means my, and ta means like ness, myness, or the sense that, that this is mine. So he gave up this mama ta, this sense of it's mine. And he gave that up, uh, a, a possessiveness which was virudham, sort of deeply rooted. Prabhupada translates it deep rooted. So he gave up a deep rooted possessiveness.
I have another definition.
Please.
Pure in thought and act.
Very good. That's it. Chaste means pure in thought and act. And then then you say, okay, what's pure? It means it's not mixed with other lesser things. It's just that thing and nothing else. So pure devotion, Shuddha Bhakti, it's just devotion. It's not mixed with other affinities and distractions and so on. Very good. So he gave up his deep-rooted minus or possessiveness, nityam, which was it's a constant thing. If you're attached to something, it's like from when you wake up and when you go to sleep and even when you're dreaming, it's just always there. It's just an attachment that you're never really free from. And so, therefore, nitya, like constant. Nitya here, I would translate like constant. He gave up a constant, deep-rooted attachment. And then all the other words in this sentence are what the attachment was to. Those words all in Rajay, but they're all in the locative case, which means attachment in all these things. So he gave up a deep-rooted uh, possessiveness, constant deep-rooted possessiveness in these things. Atma, which here probably translates as body, which it can mean. It can also mean simply sort of self-centeredness, like being self-centered. In Sanskrit, they don't literally say self-centered. They don't use the sort of the geometric term centered. And so, but attachment, constant deeper attachment in what we would say today, self-centeredness, or in the body, which is, of course, the root of self-centeredness. And then Jaya, his wife, Sutta, children, Agara, which just means Griha, is home, Pashu is animals. Nowadays we might think, oh, did he have pets or something? But back then people had, they had horses. Kings had horses, and if you even study European history, the kings, they kept a stable of really great horses, and that was a big deal in terms of battle, in terms of it's a big thing for warriors is their horse. And so animals, and of course other animals like cows. In fact, there's a term godhana, cow wealth, because if you had a lot of cows and you produced all kinds of products like milk and uh, and of course ghee and butter and all these things, so they have the term godhana, cow wealth. So those two animals especially would have been a source of wealth. So pashu dravina, treasury, bandushu, and in friends and family. I still remember, when you get together, family events like your close friends and your family, and you all get together. So for people on the material platform, that's a big deal. And Rod J in his kingdom, deep rooted constant attachment in his kingdom, avikale. Vikala means undivided, undisturbed. Because if you study history, a king can have a kingdom, but he has some dangerous neighbors to the north, or there's some other empire. Like, for example, let's say, let's even take the Roman Empire. If you study history, the two other, say, geopolitical areas that were most troublesome to the Romans, one, of course, was obviously the Germanic countries, which they periodically sort of conquered and then lost a little territory, got it back. So the Germanic lands, sort of north central Europe or northeast Europe, it was always sort of, it was always an issue for the Romans. The other area for the Romans was the Persian Empire, because, uh, bec- sorry, just tell you very briefly, because of logistics. Like in other words, you have to have supply lines, and you have to, to feed your army and supplies and everything. And so based on the technology they had then, which was pre-industrial, the Roman power could sort of extend itself intact or very efficiently to a certain geographic distance. And they tended to run out of gas at the Persian Empire. Although they did have battles, and they would conquer the Persians, but to actually hold it, to colonize it, to really control it against uprisings, it was problematic. So those were the sort of the two problematic areas where the Romans did have success, but it was a stretch, and that's the Germanic countries and the Persian Empire. And but here I'm saying in contrast to Parikshit, because here it said the Parikshit's empire was avikale. It was really fully extended, and there weren't, in a sense, problem areas. That's what that word means here. So maybe I'll stop there because we've already discussed the other verse. Any questions on that verse? No comments, questions?
I had a thought about you were quoting that Akamasara Kamava. It was reminding me of that, I don't know what the source of it is, but the Om Pavitra Pavitra Va.
The initiate Om Apavitra Pavitra Va Sarvavastang Gatopi. Yes, it's a very good connection. They're really saying the same thing. What that verse says is Om Apavitra means impure, and Pavitra Va, or pure, Pavitra Va. And then Sarvavastang Gatopi Va. In Sanskrit, the way they say any is sometimes they'll say all. Or in other words, they'll say gato piva, gato gone, api even, va, or even having gone to every situation. So avastam means a situation. Sta means stand, and ava means down. You sort of like get yourself into a situation. Is an avastam. And so sarvavastam, gato piva, even having gone or gotten into every situation, which is the way they would say, like in any situation that you've gotten yourself into. That's kind of the way they would say it in Sanskrit. And we get ourselves into some real doozies. So, sarvavastam gatopiva jatsmare, one who can remember. It's actually the optative form of the verb. Smarati would mean one who remembers. This is smaret, one who can remember, one who's able to remember. Jaksmare Pundarikaksham, the lotus-eyed Lord, sa, he, that person, bhaya, externally, and bhaya antaram, and internally, shuchi, is cleansed. Sri Vishnu. So yes, that's absolutely, yeah, there's the verses saying the same thing. That if you have no desires or all desires or whatever mess you've gotten yourself into, if you can just smarate, one who can remember. And it's interesting because the first verse, the Kama Sarva Kama Va, is talking about one who can worship, and here it's saying one who can remember. And then you know that verse that which is so important. Uh Smartavyak Satatang Vishnu. You know that one? Vishnu is always to Smartavyak Satatam means always. Vishnu is always to be remembered. Vismartavya Najatucha, and never to be forgotten. The way you say forget in Sanskrit is disremembered or unremembered. Vismartavya. And so it said sarve. So remember Krishna is a vidhi, which means a positive injunction, like you must do this. And then nisheda is a negative, like a prohibition. You cannot do that. They still use that. I've noticed in Mayapur, they say in Bengali, don't pick the flowers. They use the word nisheda. It's like forbidden to pick flowers. So they so every do and every don't is a servant. So smartav yaksatatam Vishnu vismartav yajatu sarve vidhi nisedaksyu. So every vidhi, every injunction and prohibition must be etayor, of these two, eva, alone, kinkara, servants. So everything, if someone tells you you have to do this in Krishna consciousness, that has to be a servant of remembering Krishna, of the one great injunction, remember Krishna. And if someone tells you can't do that, it has to be a servant of the great prohibition. Don't forget Krishna. So in that sense, if someone is just struggling to remember Krishna and not forget him, all the other rules will fall into line. All the other rules will eventually be complied with. So yeah, that was those two verses, the initiation mantra that Prabhupada used. No matter what mess you've gotten yourself into, whatever situation you're in, you can't. In other words, you can't say that I cannot try to be Krishna conscious because of my situation. Although it's interesting because to bring in other verses, you must know in chapter 12, where Krishna says, just fix your mind in me and always remember. But if you can't do that, Nashak knows, then do this. If you can't do that, then do the other thing. And so, but of course, that's not the best path. The best path is, even if one is struggling, just keep your mind fixed in Krishna. And we see that people that do that ultimately are victorious. You know, sometimes we find ourselves in very difficult situations, but we just stick with Krishna and then we become successful, victorious. I'm sure we all know people like that. So, any other point?
No.
Okay, thank you very much for attending. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you.